Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I'm looking forward to the big debate next week. Tuesday, going to be, I think there are 12 of the candidates that have qualified for this round of debates. Somewhere just outside of Columbus, it's going to be held. And it's one of those moments where, again, there's so much going on that Trump has basically sucked all the oxygen out of the room. That last night's LGBTQ town halls, I don't think got very little coverage at all outside of Beto's comment about any church that doesn't recognize people's rights losing tax status, and obviously the Elizabeth Warren obvious argument of, look, if you're against gay marriage, don't do it. Pretty simple. It's an argument I've been making from the beginning. It's like a lot of things. If you don't like it, don't do it. But these debates, opportunity for these candidates to get some message out in the era of Trump sucking literally every bit of oxygen out of the air. And here to share some thoughts on next week's debates, I've asked our good friend Robert Weiner to come talk with us. He's a White House correspondent, also the president of Robert Weiner Associates News. He is a former spokesperson for both the Clinton and Bush White Houses. Robert, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, it's great to be with you and love doing your show with you. So what's on your mind? So
the big debate's coming up. Opportunity to maybe get a little bit of airtime, because I'll tell you, these last several days, it's been wall-to-wall Trump.
It's been wall-to-wall Trump, but negative Trump. And he's falling like a rock. So it's not necessarily bad. This is maybe where it comes back to haunt him.
Yeah, but in Trump's mind, there's no such thing as negative Trump. If you're talking about Trump, it's a good thing in his mind.
Well, I still haven't figured out, Rick, and maybe you can help me do it, whether he still wants to be impeached as the third president in history to have been impeached. That's going to happen, and that's where Pelosi is just working straightforward, totally focused, and going forward with what's going to turn out to be headlines in every newspaper in the country with the articles of impeachment on not only Ukraine of arms for dirt, but it's going to be the articles of impeachment specifically on abuse of power, on retaliation, on obstruction, and every newspaper is going to have boxes around those articles of impeachment, and that's what the American people are going to see. So that's what's about to happen, and that's happening in maybe 2 weeks, according to Congressman Jim Hines, who let that news out. They're writing the articles now. And it's all going to be our Thanksgiving holiday, I think.
Yeah, that's what the say is. But what if he continues to obstruct? What if they continue to not allow people to testify?
Didn't work, did it today?
Well, no, it didn't. Well, she doesn't work for them anymore.
And well, she is on the payroll, but not as the ambassador. And she had the armor of a subpoena. So now people who want to honor those subpoenas, as the head of Homeland, the director of national intelligence did. So we're getting the witnesses to go forward. The truth is coming out, not let alone the fact, Rick, that you have the evidence to begin with. In what I thought was one of the stupidest political decisions that the White House made in some time of releasing a partial transcript of that phone call,
yep,
on top of the whistleblower's complaint, and now a second whistleblower who said he was shocked and horrified by the illegality of what the first whistleblower of what happened, that he fed into support for what the first whistleblower said. So the evidence is there. It's just not as though it's hiding anymore. And then they'll, in the articles of impeachment, Rick, they'll feed into it the rest of the wrongdoing, the 10 obstruction specifics that Mueller put out, that 1,000 prosecutors said they would have prosecuted Trump for, that they use the excuse that he wasn't president, that he's president, so we can't prosecute. So that's not going to hold any water anymore now either, because that can be and is in even though Mueller did a horrible job of verbally testifying, it was there in the report in the second volume.
Yeah.
So that's actually what's going to happen, is there's going to be a pyramid with the Ukraine case being the lead article, the other items being the secondary articles of impeachment. They may have anywhere from 3 to 6 articles. I don't think they want to confuse people. I've heard some people say, we should have more articles to show he's the worst president ever. I don't think anybody's concerned about that. You can consume everything into three articles and then have a vote. I think all that most people want is the actual impeachment.
Yeah, no, but I look at this, and I necessarily don't want to get the Mueller stuff involved in it if you don't have to, because this is, as you pointed out, very simple. Very simple. You can read the source documents in a couple of minutes, and you're right. I think it was the dumbest thing that they've done by putting out that transcript, because I believe they thought the transcript made them look okay.
I don't think they did. I think Trump just thought he was insulated from anything. And I think he's finally realizing that he's not.
And by them, I mean Trump, because nothing happens.
That is correct.
Unless it is Trump. And maybe it comes back to he just doesn't read, so he didn't actually read the transcript. I mean, maybe that's it, because ultimately nothing he does is ever wrong, and it's always the best, most perfect thing ever.
Right.
So
perfect call.
It's not. Have you ever had a perfect call? I mean, wasn't that a weird frame?
Yeah. So I think the country can still wind up okay. You know, I think Biden, unfortunately, is like been dirtied some. It was stupid parenting. He needed to tell Hunter not to be involved in Ukraine, anything that makes money.
Agreed.
I mean, that's what needed to happen. But so Biden's been hurt somewhat, and overall, but nonetheless, I think that Trump is essentially going to be really hurt here, as finally is his just reward. And, Rick, the way I see this thing is Warren is rising, and I see the thing headed in that direction.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you on that, because ultimately I think Biden has run a really poor campaign, and then this doesn't help.
He was asleep at the switch when Trump started attacking him. And then, the lack of energy, even when he gives his best speeches now. It's just
I thought he was windsurfing with John Kerry.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird time, and look, because this could have been an opportunity for Biden. Although now he's come out for impeachment. I mean, after a majority of the people now support it.
Right.
Which is one of my knocks. And look, I like Joe Biden. I liked him.
Me too. I was at his house with him after he first announced for Senate back in 71, 72, and he remembers that. And we're friends, but I still want to speak truth to power here.
Yeah, I just don't think I think his time has passed, and we need someone with a little more vision forward.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm still going back and forth between Warren and Sanders, because ultimately they're almost one and the same.
Well, here's what I think happened. Much like last time when Hillary met with Warren, and Warren deferred to Hillary after their meeting back in 2016, and didn't want to chip away at the power of the possibility of the first woman president, and thought Hillary was the dominant candidate, and so I know that Warren and Bernie had a meeting. I'm convinced that in that meeting, this time, what happened was when one starts to fall, the other starts to rise, one would endorse the other, and I think that may happen sometime between now and the convention.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But here's the other question on the impeachment. What's the Senate going to do? I mean, are you going to get 20 Republicans to come around to convict? I just don't see that happening.
They're sink or swim with Trump, and it's going to be to their own peril, which is why when we need maybe 3, most likely 4 senators, this could be the kind of a wave that actually does turn the Senate around, because they're going to have to justify having stood with Trump. I think there's a 10-point penalty for standing with Trump in anybody who does it now, and that's what I predicted in the Des Moines Register when I said that the Comey vote won't be there in the congressional election, which occurred and which was about a 10-point margin, and that Comey flip that happened in the last election won't be there in the presidential election either, and all the Senate races that go along with it. So I think we're looking at a 10-point wave.
Wow. So I don't want my listeners to think, wow, this is over.
No, my God, it's got to take an enormous turnout. Yeah. It's got to, because they're going to cheat, lie, and steal their way into trying to win this thing. They're just not going to give it up.
Yeah, I don't want people to think that this is a slam dunk, because
nope.
I'm still predicting he's going to win.
Is that just so that you can be wrong?
I'm hoping. I am hoping. I predicted he was going to win in 2016. I know a lot of people have high. I absolutely did it. I'll tell the story again. My grandmother passed in April of 2016. Mm-hmm. I went back home to my family in Cleveland, otherwise known as the basket of deplorables, and they all, for the first time in their lives, And these are people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s all went and registered to vote for Trump because they bought into the idea that he was going to recreate that prosperous working class, going to bring back all the factories and all the jobs. And, oh, by the way, we were going to go after those people. And, the racist element was right there front and center. And I came back and I said, there's no question. He's hands down going to win. And so election night, I was the only guy in the room who wasn't surprised. I'm
impressed, although in my worst nightmare, it couldn't happen. But then at the end, when I saw the L.A. Times poll was the only one, they actually, even though Hillary did win by about 3 points, the L.A. Times predicted a Trump win by 1 point. They were the only poll that went that way. Everything else apparently didn't take in the Electoral College breakout. They only went with the national polls, and we were all too stupid to realize that it was an Electoral College breakout.
Right. Now, again, I look at Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, it was about the misogyny. If you look at the local the statewide races on the state level, the 3 white guys for Auditor General, Treasurer, and Attorney General all walked away. I mean, they were called almost as immediately as the polls closed. The 2 women who were running on the statewide ballot, obviously Clinton and Katie McGinty for senator, they both lost by the same percent. So it didn't tell me that Republicans came out in overwhelming numbers. It told me that some Democrats, the more moderate Democrats, flipped their votes from the 3 white guys against the 2 white women. Well,
you were perceptive.
But no, I mean,
whatever the word is for future looking perspicacious or something. There's some word about knowing the future.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
clairvoyant.
Yeah. I'm not a genius. I don't have a crystal ball. I just talk to people, and that's the unfortunate reality. We are who we are, and I don't know that we're much different of a country. The difference.
I think we are. I think that Pennsylvania is smart enough, and the polls show that Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all have turned and now are anti-Trump. But then, do you believe that?
No.
You don't?
I don't believe that. I think that they've been hurt by some of his policies, but it all depends on who you put into those positions. And we'll see who the Democrat is and how badly they get bloodied in the general. I mean, ultimately, it's going to come down to me, there are no slam dunks in this. It's not a slam dunk for Trump or against him, and it should be a slam dunk after all of the things that we've seen these last 2.5, almost 3 years. It should be a slam dunk. I just don't think it is.
Well, I know that a month ago we were looking at Biden wins by 12 or 13. Bernie actually was higher in the polls against Trump than Warren by 9, and Warren by 7. That's what the polling showed, and you figure once you're within 3, God knows what happens, but nobody of those top 3 was within 3, and it looked pretty good. Now, if we really all agreed that Biden is knocked out, can Warren pick up the thing and run with it and gain? And I think that she can.
I hope she can. I find she has done much better as a campaigner and as a messenger than I thought she could.
Correct.
In the beginning, so I'm happy to see that.
What do you make of the fact that what we all want, which is the broadest health care possible, and everybody, I think, in the beginning, all of those of us who were progressives really did look toward Medicare for all, and now it turns out that really the American people are not so in favor of Medicare for all. That they don't want to lose the option of the private health insurance if they have a plan, and that's like 150 million people there. So what do you make of that we're losing our one of our best issues, and it's moved in a different direction?
It scares the hell out of me. It tells me how short-sighted we are. I mean, the GM strike here that's been going on for 26 days. What was the first thing GM went and did after the people went out on strike? They cut off their health care. And then they realized, this is a bad thing. This sends the wrong message. And then they went back because the public outcry was so much. But, again, it's one of these moments where every working person who has employer-sponsored health care today, good for you. I'm glad you got it today. But the second you get sick, the second you lose that job, the second you do something else, you lose that. And to me, that's where the idea of having a Medicare for all system is viable. And I think Pete Buttigieg has kind of the right idea in, Medicare for people who want it. Maybe having that public option that I wanted from the beginning with the Affordable Care Act.
Right. And people forget that Obama actually did not want the public option.
Exactly.
They forget that Hillary had the stronger health care plan, And Obama, now it's retroactive that people say, oh, well, we should have, could have. We really weren't there.
Yeah.
And that's not what the Obama plan did.
No, and this is, we're in kind of scary times because, and this is where I keep coming back to, if Elizabeth Warren is the nominee, and this is one of the top issues for voters across the country, healthcare. If you give them the choice between, Elizabeth Warren's for Medicare for all, but Donald Trump wants to give you more choice, because for some reason as Americans we've got this idea that we want more choice. We want the choice between bad and worse, or bad and just as bad, if not bad. It doesn't seem like we want to go, okay, let's take some of that choice away and actually get something good out of it.
Well, it's not really that he wants to give you choice. He wants to take it all away and claim he's ever going to come up with a plan for choice, and instead just let the courts, because they filed a support of the Texas case that simply declares the whole thing unconstitutional and puts us back pre-Obamacare, which is an incredible disaster.
Oh, terrible.
The real solution is fund the exchanges under Obamacare. Get it so everybody really does have that option, and give that's one solution that at least takes you there.
Yeah.
And the Congress won't even go that route.
Yeah, and actually make it that you get rid of the high deductibles and the co-pays and all that stuff as well.
Right.
So last question I've got for you, going back to the debates, because I'm hoping this, get some attention for the Democratic candidates, since they've seemed to have fallen off the thing. What are you hoping to see out of the debates?
I'm hoping we see an amazing progressive agenda by all the candidates in various forms, and that people see the contrast with a criminal, disloyal, narcissistic egomaniac who wants nothing but himself, and apparently every decision he makes is something that helps Putin, even the Syria thing. So I think if we can get that message out of the debates and make it that not Trump has got to be what we all do, and the country will be 90% better off, I think that's what we're going to get out of the debate.
There you go. All right, Bob, I appreciate the time, man. As always, great talking with you. I hope you'll come back and join us again real soon.
Yes, thanks so much. Great. Take care.
As always, good stuff. Our good friend Bob Weiner, president of Weiner Associates. It's just one of those things I'm looking forward to. Let's